After several weeks of bad injury news, the 49ers finally are getting the break. Ricky Pearsall is getting closer to returning, and for the first time in a while, they came out of a game without any new injuries. And while it wasn't the outcome that we would have hoped for, we'll take any good news where we can get it. So we'll discuss that and more on today's 49K Pod.
You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Monday, November 10th. Loser Monday? Like, what do we call a Monday where after the 49ers lost a game, Weston?
Unvictorious Monday.
Unvictorious Monday. Well, yeah, that's good enough for me. But yeah, I mean, that's how we're feeling about Mondays in general, and even worse when it's one after the 49ers have lost. But Weston, other than that, how are you?
I'm good. It's Monday. We're getting into the holiday season, Steph. I got the youngsters at home, so they're super excited. We did Christmas tree early during the day yesterday. They hung some ornaments during the Niners game, so I could just kind of throw my own temper and be left alone. It was peaceful. It was nice, but I'm all good. I think the 49ers still sit exactly where we expected them to be.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the crux of it, right? Like, especially after a week in which they didn't make any moves at the deadline, you kind of knew what was going into this game, or what they had going into this game, which was not a whole lot on the defensive side of the ball. The defensive performance on Sunday really reflected that, right? So I think that's, yeah, it's pretty much summarizes that game against the Rams. But the reason that I've titled this finally some good news for the 49ers, despite the bad loss yesterday, is because, I mean, we will kind of take our wins wherever we can get them. And the 49ers don't have any new injuries to report from that Week 10 game against the Rams. That certainly feels like a positive, Weston. And so now we're just monitoring existing injuries, right? So Alfred Collins, who got hurt in Thursday's practice, he, of course, did not play the game on Sunday. Kyle Shanahan did provide the update. He will continue to be evaluated, but he did also say that he was pretty close to playing on Sunday. So that's probably, a good sign that if he progresses as expected this week, he has a good shot of returning in Week 11. Brock Purdy will continue to be progressed or evaluated, I guess. That's kind of what that one means with his toe injury. And then Ricky Pearsall, 49ers hope to have him back at practice this week. Now, that'll be huge. That's another one we've been waiting on for quite some time, especially after just like the original timeline we were given with Pearsall. It's now been way past that. So, welcome to have him back. And then the other one is Brandon Ayuk. Will he have his practice window open? Kyle Shanahan said not this week for the second straight week, or actually, I guess at this point, a little more than that. But I guess this is where I want to take this conversation now. Let's talk about Brock Purdy first, because yesterday after the game, or actually to take a step back even further, I mean, we do know that Brock Purdy was questionable for this game. For the last two games, he's questionable on the game report, and then they say he has a chance to be a backup leading into the game. 2 weeks in a row now that he's been inactive, after the 49ers have said this, which, I think you can understand, because people were also wondering, well, if he's healthy enough to be the backup, why wouldn't he just play? So they're kind of taking themselves out of the politics of that. Now, Kyle Shanahan was asked about Brock Purdy yesterday. The question was from the reporter, at some point, do you just have to play Brock Purdy knowing he's not 100%? And if he was close to playing, here's what Kyle Shanahan had to say.
Was Brock to being the backup today?
He could have gone, definitely. I just decided to hold him, not put him in that situation.
How'd you feel, Mac? He's probably never going to be 100% again this season. Is there Like, at some point, do you just have to play him knowing that he's not going to be 100%?
Yes, it depends on how close to 100% he gets. Our dilemma, or what we're trying not to do, is put him out in the situation we did versus Jacksonville 5 weeks ago or 6, whatever it was. So I do believe he's closer and further along than what he was at that time. So hopefully he'll have a chance this week.
How'd you feel Mac Jones played today?
It seemed like he played really well. I thought he got rid of the ball, didn't get caught with it too much, got the ball to the right spots, and definitely gave us a chance to win.
All right, so the comments around Brock Purdy, I think to this point, have been interesting to say the least, from Kyle Shanahan, and certainly saying that Brock Purdy definitely could have gone in Sunday's game. I think further brings up the question, well, why didn't he? I mean, he did go on to try to explain that, as far as trying to avoid a situation of putting them out there too early, just like they did in week 4 against the Jags. But to use the word like he definitely could have gone, makes it sound like he's definitely healthy enough to play. We just wanted to hold him out of that situation.
Yeah, I think as long as this is lingered on right now, like, yeah, he's healthy enough to go, but is he healthy enough to finish? Is he healthy? You know what I mean? There's just a lot that goes into it. Like, the further you separate yourself from the injury, the more time you get to rest. Maybe it's a little bit easier to recover from week to week, right? Like, and by resting and doing those things, I think what's not being said out loud, if you read between the lines, is like, yeah, we're getting closer to Brock being like where we're gonna put him out there, but it also needs to make sense. Like, are we playing for something? Are we biting for something? Right? Like, there's a lot that hangs in the balance. If this season starts to become a wash, like, do you need him out there? Right? Like, what's more important, the years beyond this, right, or right now? In a playoff push of some sort. So, I mean, at this point, I'm fine with it. In terms of like whatever they want to do with him. What I don't ever want to see in this scenario is if you dress him as 2, he might as well be 1, right? So as long as he's not on the active, he's not active on game day, or he's, defined as inactive, then the logic here makes sense. We're letting him rest. And the biggest thing that comes out of that is, yeah, Mac is playing really freaking well right now, which makes it easier to not have to rush the guy out there if you're still winning football games or being competitive in football games. Here's the truth. You just paid this guy a whole lot of money. Of course, you want to see him on the football field, but it also needs to be prudent. You wouldn't do this to any of your superstars that you're paying big money. You want them to make sure that, like, you're putting them in the best position to succeed. And that's not just on the football field. That's saving them from all of the bullshit and all of the conversations that take place off of the field. The reality is the 49ers were probably never going to win this game against the Los Angeles Rams. And if it's Brock that you march out there and it doesn't look flawless, here we go, right? Like, eruption in the media. Like, so I think this is about hedging your bet. This is protecting your player, not just physically, but like mentally, and protecting your locker room. So at this point in time, I am fine with how they're handling the Brock Purdy situation. Like, I'm fine with it.
Now, the speculation, of course, naturally from many, is that because Mac Jones is playing as well as he has been, and there's no doubt about that, are the 49ers sneakily playing the hot hand here by just under the guise of, we just want Brock Purdy to get to 100%. Like, they could drag that along as long as they want to. We would never know.
I don't think they're high. I don't know. It's so hard with the 49ers because I feel like
Sorry to put you on the hot seat, Weston.
No,
I
just feel like
there.
At times they feel like they're smarter than everybody else. So, like, I won't put mind games past them in any capacity, and just like, hey, we're protecting our franchise. We're protecting our quarterback because we want to see what this number 10 dude can do and how far he can take us. But I don't know. I just feel like there's no scenario that if Brock is ready to go, that Brock is not the quarterback right now, at least, right? Like, there's no scenario. Like, we have 2 games as evidence as to what he looks like as the $260 million quarterback. One of them's a week 1 win on the road against the divisional opponent in Seattle. where he looked pretty good, right? Like he looked better than he did last year. And then the next is playing through injury against Jacksonville. So I don't know, Steph. I don't want to say they're playing sleight of hand here. But I do think in the back of his brain, Kyle is definitely intrigued by like what the offense looks like, at least from a passing game perspective under Mac Jones. Because, I mean, look, it looks good. It looks efficient. It looks clean. It looks crisp. But we also have to remember that once upon a time it did for number 13 as well.
There's just no reason to mess something up if it's going well, right? Like and you know, they're not going to come out and say that like we're going with the hot hand. But they have the luxury of being able to roll and ride with it, you know, with Mac Jones right now. And I'm sure if Mac Jones had an awful game, let's just say, like hypothetically against the Rams, maybe we're looking at some different quotes from Kyle Shanahan, you know, this week, right, about Brock Purdy's availability. But for now, they could, like I said, they could play it under the guise of wanting to get him to 100%, and they could do that as long as they wish. The 49ers, ultimately, Kyle Shanahan, like they're no strangers to quarterback controversies or their starting quarterback getting hurt and the backup playing well enough that they just want to continue on with that. Like they've done this before. So that's why also another reason I think none of us would put it past them either. So do I think it's gotten weird? No, I think it's gotten natural. Like I think a lot of teams would, you know, try to roll with the hot hand to the 49ers, or I think Kyle Shanahan is trying his best to like, you know, not make it a controversy, but we know how this team operates. We're familiar with your game.
Yeah, we don't trust you, Kyle, in this regard. We love you. We appreciate you. We just don't friggin' trust you with your explanations.
Exactly. And, you know, to further that explanation a little bit, today, Kyle Shanahan was asked on, you know, if the 49ers would need to see 3 practices from him, you know, full practices from Brock Purdy to, you know, put him back out there to play. And Kyle Shanahan said, yes, that's kind of what we want to see, want to hear it from him, want 3 aggressive practices, and want to make sure he feels good after all of them each day too, end quote. So we haven't gotten to that point yet. Brock Purdy's, to this point, when he has practice, has been in limited fashion. They have started to give him first team reps, according to Kyle Shanahan, in those limited, in that limited participation, but we still have not seen a full week of full participation where you can say with certainty that, you know, he's good to go. So we'll keep waiting.
Yeah. I think that's prudent though, Steph, right? I mean, that, bless you, that plays itself into the hands of like, we want to make sure that you can also recover from the game, right? If the 49, if this was different, if the record looked different, if Mac wasn't looking impressive, I guarantee they'd have Brock out there playing and just like not practicing, right? Like we would just see like literally limited participant all throughout the week, and then they're on game day, and then limited participant throughout the week, they're on game day. But like, what does that also do for your team? But if they were desperate for wins, if they were desperate to be competitive and justify, you know, the big contract spend, like justification around the big contract spend, that's like you and I speak, Steph, right? Like that's the talking head speak. That's all that. Like in Kyle's and John's eyes, it's justified. They've already spent it. They wouldn't have spent it if it wasn't justifiable. So they don't care about any of that. I think right now they just find themselves in a very luxurious spot that most NFL teams don't find themselves in, is that the backup quarterback is competitive. Like look at Lamar Jackson coming back from injury too. If Snoop Huntley was winning games down in Baltimore and their season wasn't almost at complete loss, maybe Lamar, if Snoop was winning games, maybe Lamar has another 2 weeks to rest and come back like full 100%. It's just like, I think the situation dictates a different outcome right now. That's all.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think that's kind of the point. It's kind of why people are thinking this is getting interesting, right? And so And we figured it would if Mac Jones did continue to play well, and he has. So
Yep.
no reason for the 49ers to mess with that right now, even if they admit that that's the reason or not. But Weston, while we're on the topic of speculations, which we often are with this team, right? But and injuries, two things go hand in hand. I mentioned that Brandon Ayuk still does not have his practice window open. Now, remember, the dates or the weeks that have been given to us as kind of like soft deadlines or soft dates, I guess, for potential returns for Brandon Ayuk has gone from as early as week 6 to week 10 to still not having his practice window opened going into now week 11.
Yeah.
And so that was the latest update today from Kyle Shanahan. He won't be having his practice window open this week. And so this is starting to become a bit of a thing as well, where I think now it is kind of fair to speculate some things around this situation and the handling of it. Is it weird, or is it just that he's still not ready? What could the 49ers possibly be cooking with this Brandon Ayuk situation? Well, people seem to think that they're feeling remorseful about having given Brandon Ayuk that big contract. There were reports that, they regretted that as soon as they extended that contract and signed him to it. And now a year later, we still haven't seen him on the field. And by the week, it becomes less and less likely, that feeling that we may not see him again in a 49ers uniform this season. And some people think ever that maybe after this season, like, they're trying to trade him, and that's why they don't want him out there, that they're trying to preserve him and not risk him to further injury so that they could trade him and his contract away after this year. I don't know if I wanted to go that far with it, but by the week, it gets a little harder to think that something weird isn't going on in the background here.
Yeah, it's just because we know the team so well. And of course, there's buyer's remorse. If you went and bought a brand new Ferrari and then put it in your driveway and went to start it the next day and it didn't start, wouldn't you have buyer's remorse as well? I mean, that's basically what's happened since the contract's been signed. And that's fair. That's fair on both sides. Brandon Ayuk and his camp would agree that this has not gone the way that they've anticipated, from the negotiations to what happened after he got paid anyway. But I do also think it's foolish on the 49ers part to think about, you might not love this contract right now, but we've talked about since day one, Brandon Ayuk was never going to look like Brandon Ayuk of 2023 in 2025, less than a year removed from major knee surgery. It was never going to happen from a production standpoint. But yeah, my wife brings out a good point. If you see her comment, I bought a brand new truck back in February, literally died in my driveway the next day, and I was pissed.
Oh, so you were speaking from experience.
Yes. Not a Ferrari, a truck nonetheless, my version of a Ferrari. That being said, like, silly game to be playing right now. Like, if you're really thinking about trying to move off this contract, you're getting pennies on the dollar in return with a year removed from football, coming off major knee surgery with no tape, right? You have no idea what it looks like on the other side. So I know you want to protect the injury, but you're also not protecting your investment. You have nobody at this point, I would argue, proven to take over the number one wide receiver spot, where the offense is going to matter significantly more than the defense go forward, especially if you're not able to retain Robert Saleh as your defensive coordinator for next year. You're going to have to be a 30-point team. Brandon Ayuk can play football. Let's not kid ourselves, right? Like, availability. He hasn't been available. It's recency bias. It is silly to want. You might regret what you paid him, but guess what? Every NFL team overpays their talent and don't get the production in return. You get paid on past production. That's what the NFL is. So there's 32 teams that have buyer remorse on big-time players and wish they spent a little bit less. But I just think it is silly talk to think about anything beyond that. Now, out of the control, maybe Brandon Ayuk is really disgruntled, and maybe he doesn't feel he's been treated fairly. And, like, whatever. That'll work itself out in the offseason. But I also do think there's an element of this, Steph. Remember once upon a time in like literally like late July, people are like, Brandon Ayuk might be ready for week 1, right? And here we are, week 10, obviously not a thing. Don't think it's going to be a thing in 11 or 12, probably after the bye week. But I also think we're fixated on this like 3-week practice window. Like he's there, he's being evaluated. It could be something that as soon as the window's open, like that means it's full steam ahead, ready to go, right? It's not like 21 days after the week. So we don't know. I'm speculating as well, but like they're clearly monitoring their investment and clearly, understand where he's at from a recovery standpoint. And maybe they're protecting him. Maybe he's not as far along in the recovery as that they're sharing, and they're just out there taking on the chin to protect their player. This could go so many different ways. I would just say it is foolish business to be in the business of signing people to big contracts and having immediate regret and trying to move off those for pennies on the dollar. That's how you lose locker rooms. That's how you lose your job as a general manager and a head coach in this league more so than any other. So we'll play this game for the next 6 weeks. We'll play it all off season. Like we've been playing it for the last 2 years, the saga that is Brandon Ayuk and his happiness or the team's happiness. I just think it's, whether you see him this year or not, it is bad business to move off of somebody you paid to be your number 1 wide receiver just after you paid somebody big money to be your number 1 wide receiver and moved off them a year later. Whether you were right or wrong in the decision, it's bad business, in my opinion.
I mean, it is. It definitely is bad business. Yeah. That's why I was a little bit not shocked, but I guess. And the reason I'm not shocked is because we know how the negotiations went down. Yep. They were exceptionally contentious. And I don't know if that relationship has improved enough for both sides to really feel comfortable about it. I think, what you say is probably right. A lot of teams have some buyer's remorse on big contracts that they do if they don't feel like they're getting their return on investment afterwards. However, I feel like it's a little bit different because of the tension that was created by said contract in this situation. And him not playing, I don't know if that's increasing the tension or what, because we don't actually know the reason. Is it the 49ers like holding him out? Is it Brandon Ayuk and his agent saying no, like we don't want to go out there I don't know. I like kind of what you said, there's so many potential possibilities. But I will say this, I don't know if Brandon Ayuk's contract, even if the 49ers wanted to move off of it, is tradable. Yeah, for being honest. And this would be for a player coming off a major injury in which, hypothetically, if he does not play the rest of this season because you want to protect him as a player and as a trade asset, then I have a hard time seeing a team willing to give up anything.
No day 1 pick, no day 2 pick, right?
And that looks terrible too. So this whole thing doesn't make sense to me.
What position would you rather be in as a team, right? At the end of the day, if I'm running the team, regardless of somebody's content with me as well, they are an employee and I am running and managing a business. You have these massive expectations, and then to get somebody to take that contract, they're not giving up a first, a second, a third, probably not even a 4th round pick with no recent production, coming off of a major knee injury. So what are you going to do? Trade him for a 5th round pick? Let's say you take a wide receiver with that 5th round pick. You're still eating half of that contract, right? Still going to be dead cap galore everywhere, the way that it's going to be, the way that it was built out. And then what? A 5th round pick that might get you. I mean, we've seen rookie wide receivers don't even get on the field with the San Francisco 49ers. So what are we doing with that? Or even if that wide receiver has 500 yards production in year 1, you can't get that from Brandon Ayuk, right? Like around your investment. It just seems silly from the 49ers perspective to like entertain that. Even if I'd rather that guy sit there and tell me I'm holding out. Good. Because there's definitely language in the contract that says that I don't have to pay you if you don't show up to work. But I'm dragging his ass to work for the next 2 years, whether he likes it or not, because that's what the contract says.
Yeah. So we'll see what comes of this. I'm also thinking maybe the goalpost has moved to after the bye week, but we haven't gotten much information about Brandon Ayuk besides the fact that it's kind of similar to the Brock Purdy thing. Like anytime John Lynch talks about it too, it's like he's getting closer. And it's been that same update for like a month plus. It's like, okay, cool. Thanks for that insight. So I guess we'll see what they say for the next month or so. But at some point, you do want to see that practice window get open for Brandon Ayuk, and maybe we could see him after the bye week. If not, if he's not back after the bye week, he's not playing a snap.
No. Agreed. If he's not back after the bye week, season's over for Brandon Ayuk, which is insanely unfortunate. But 49er fans, get used to this chatter because you're going to have the same talk track around Nick Bosa's return next year, the same chatter around Michael Williams' return next year. Get used to it. Interpret it.
Oh, we're used to it.
Oh, yeah.
We don't enjoy it, but we're used to it.
No. But we're here to sort it out for you, right, Steph? That's why we do this on Monday.
We're here to speculate. That's our favorite thing to do is speculate. It's all we could do. I mean, what? We don't get much information. So we'll be waiting the good updates, I guess, on Brandon Ayuk if that day ever comes. Now, let's shift over to, the game that we watched yesterday. Yeah. Rams handed it to the 49ers at home. The defense got completely exposed by this Los Angeles offense. Again, you could have probably expected some version of that given how depleted the 49ers defense is. And, that Rams offense is pretty freaking good. So after week 5 and how that went, you knew the Rams were going to look for some revenge from that. Now, there isn't much to analyze what I said yesterday, though, Weston, and I want to get your thoughts. I just feel like this defense is what it is. With all the injuries that have happened, what it is. They, didn't want to overspend on bringing someone else in at the deadline. Fine. They knew what they were signing up for in accepting that. And the result is what you saw on Sunday, right? Yep. And it's also fair for someone to say that this team, this defense is not one more traded player away from winning that game. And I think that would be fair. But could they have been one player away from making one more stop?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of all they needed at like couple points in this game.
Yeah.
Which could have put them in it. And then you don't know what happens, right? Maybe you go to OT. I don't know. But I think it's fair for people to be upset, for people who were upset that the 49ers didn't make moves at the trade deadline, to say, see, this is what happens when you weren't aggressive enough in helping. Because it wasn't even we know it wasn't a trade move that would have been for Super Bowl. Like, we knew that. No. It was simply a move that we were begging for this team to just help the defense because they were just in such bad shape with the injuries. So yeah, it's kind of hard to argue against, people who feel that way after that game in this week until they can undo that with a more positive performance. And you look at these next 3 games, and that's certainly on the table. I think this defense is capable of playing some competitive games. But if you're playing a team as good as the Rams and that offense, it's going to look like that in those cases.
Yeah, so a couple things about the game. First and foremost, I'm not saying this because they won the football game. Like, I actually firmly believe that as of right now, the Rams are the most complete team in the National Football League. That's just my belief, both offensively, defensively, and the 49ers hung around. But to your point, specifically around the defense, this was the first time I thought they just had a poor game plan and bad execution against the Texans, right? In that loss, this game is what it looks like when you run out of bodies, right? Like, hey, they couldn't stop a nosebleed on the first 3 possessions of the LA Rams. Then they figured a few things out, made a stop here, offense, was able to go down, put some points on the board, stop the bleeding eventually. And by the way, the offense got in their own way in the first half as well. That could have kept this game closer than it really was. But even in the second half, they made some stops, and then just late that third quarter, early fourth quarter, you saw the fatigue kick in, right? You saw the absence of a playmaker who can make that stop, and the Achilles heel is on third down because they have to send pressure on third down after the quarterback, and if you don't pressure Matthew Stafford, he will destroy you. Like, he will literally pick you apart. But now you're in man-to-man coverage against Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Sean McVay play calling, and you're just at a disadvantage where you make consecutive plays on defense, and then it's third and long, and then lo and behold, right, they pick up the first down and just keep the drive going, keep that defense out there, tire you out. I think this is the first time you really saw what a lack of bodies and a lack of depth does for you. But what this game also did for me, Steph, is it angered me so much. And it wasn't the game. Again, it's kind of I expected more of what we saw on the Rams' first three possessions throughout the entirety of the game. That was my expectation going in. My frustration is with the fan police, right, coming out of this game about being, how are 49ers fans satisfied with that output, or, whatever terminology they want to use. And guys, I'm not making excuses, but if you take away from the Rams what the 49ers are missing by position, right? Are they 8-2? Absolutely not. If you take it away from the Indianapolis Colts, any of these teams sitting at the top, the Detroit Lions, that team's not the same. Applaud the 49ers that they still have fight, that they still keep coming, because even when the team was loaded with superstars, we've seen the 49ers fold when they don't get out to a hot start, right? And this version of them did not fold by any means. But I just think there are people out there that don't understand the pedigree of a national, they expect that not only do we have the best player at the position in the National Football League, we have the second best player at the position in the National Football League who backs up the guy who's not there. And that's not the way the NFL works. That is why there's parity. There are 32 teams in the league. You lose starters, you're in big friggin' trouble. That's it. And the fact that I am proud of this football team because they actually show up with fight and grit. I take George Kittle as a prime example with his touchdown at the end of the game, making spectacular plays as a leader of this football team when that game is all but done on the clock, right? You're not winning that football game. The writing's on the wall, still playing character on this team, right? And you are seeing certain players make splash plays here. It's just it's just the consistency that we're not seeing because these guys are being thrusted into situations they haven't been part of. Malik Mustafa is coming off of a torn ACL and is in his third week back on the field playing safety. That's hard to do. We can make excuses for everyone, and I am making them for them right now because I do think there's an element of this squad that we want Super Bowls, we want results, but what do you freaking expect when you take out the number ones and number twos on this roster across the board at every single position? They're not even there anymore. You know what I mean? What do you really expect? I don't know. That's where I get mad and I get frustrated because it's just I think people think that the way they view the 49ers is the way that they manage it while they're playing Madden. You know what I mean? In a video game that they can just turn off trade declines and things like that and just stack a roster. And that's just not how the National Football League works.
Yeah. And I mean, I know a lot of people are upset with the way this season has gone on and are fire John Lynch, fire Kyle Shanahan. You always got those people, right?
For sure.
And it's okay, but what about the injury? The injuries are the reason that they're in such bad shape. They didn't start the season looking like this. No. And they wouldn't look like this if it weren't for all of the injuries that they face. That's a whole nother issue right there that we're all hoping is addressed this offseason because it's gone on a little too long to ignore now. But in the meantime, I think the expectations have to change with, just the way things have gone, and you're not getting any help. I mean, sure, the 49ers are hosting Asante Samuel Jr. for a visit today, and maybe he signs. And again, I'm not sure how much that's really going to change things for the 49ers, but yeah, you kind of have to roll with the punches. And some weeks I think this defense is going to be able to compete, like I said, uh, just like they did the week prior. But I don't think you're not going to find yourself in games against playoff teams like the Rams. I think we should temper those expectations right now to just nip those in the bud.
I mean, honestly, and this is not an exaggeration. The Rams are 2 plays away from being undefeated this season. Literally 2 plays, right?
Yeah.
And anybody who watched the game, you heard Tom Brady mention that, but it's the absolute truth. A blocked field goal at the end of a game, that if they make that, they win the football game. And then the fumble from Kyron Williams against the 49ers going into the end zone. That wasn't the final play of the game, but that was in the final 2 minutes and changed the entire trajectory. He goes in there and scores, the 49ers don't win that football game, right? They make that field goal, they beat the Eagles. This is a real legit team. And I think, Steph, to your point, is based on who we're trotting out there, you're not serious about your team if you think or expect them to really have a shot at beating those teams right now. Now, we do expect them to compete. These are professionals. They all get paid. You want to see a good product. And I don't think they have failed in that regard. I think Houston was the failure so far this season. I don't look at this loss to the Rams. This game was a lot closer to me than the score would suggest. I think they're a play or two away from executing on offense in the first half, where, it might be 21-14 going in at half. Totally different ball game. And different expectations. So I don't know. I just think I'm not trying to. Every year the season begins, I want my team to hoist a Lombardi trophy. That is why I tune in. That is the way that I cheer. That is the loyalty that I have to this team. But don't tell me I can't be proud of a bunch of guys out there just laying it all on the line with nothing to lose, with every chip stack against them. There's something to be said about that. We talk about teams rolling over all the time, dying, quitting, tanking, whatever term you want to use. And this team has had every excuse to be better luck next year. And they haven't.
Yeah. I mean, there's been games where they've surprised us, and, we commend them for their valiant effort despite everything they're facing, on defense. And yeah, there's a world in which, even with all those circumstances, they could have been a little more competitive in this game. Offense could have scored more points, and maybe we're talking about a different game. I don't know, but yeah, it is what it is. Now, Weston, to keep up with our silver lining of today, how about we nominate some 49K players of the week? And we don't have many, right? But we do. I feel like we have more than we usually do in some losses, so I'll take that.
Listen, I think there were some good things to glean from the game. Not a lot. I probably have more flowers than I do game balls to hand out at this point in time. But there was definitely some good takeaways.
All right, I'll start then.
Yes, you do.
I'm going to say George Kittle, and for part of the reason you mentioned a little bit ago, just his effort all out. I mean, that's George Kittle all the time. It doesn't matter what the score is. It doesn't matter what the situation is, what the opponent is. I mean, he's always going to just put his all on the line. It wasn't even just the touchdown. He had that other diving catch that he made. That was incredible. George Kittle needs to get the ball your offense needs to revolve around 2 guys. Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle, and nobody else. I've seen enough of Juwan Jennings, and yes, I'm aware of the fact that Juwan Jennings scored a touchdown. It does not change my mind. They should have traded him at the trade deadline when they had the chance. I digress, because we're talking about George Kittle. But George Kittle needs to get the ball way more often. And I say that after a game where he had 9 targets and he caught all of them.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. The offense needs to revolve and run through George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey. That's it. I could live with that. If they lose but they're spamming those guys and they still I could live with that because you tried your damnedest. But like there's just times where I'm just like, man, did we really try to get George Kittle as involved as we could have? And this felt like the first game since all season, or since he's been back at least, where it felt like, he was finally getting targets and he was finally part of the game plan. I'd like to see that each and every week because he's too talented. He's too talented to, and it's not just that, but he rewards you for targeting him with, like you were saying, all out effort all the time. And you just have no idea how far that can go in galvanizing your team and getting them up like, yeah, let's do this sort of thing. So that's what George Kittle brings to the table anytime he steps onto the field. The 49ers need to take advantage of that a little bit more. But I thought this was a game in which I need to nominate him for 49K Player of the Week.
And you're 100% right to do so. Funny watching the game, and I'm talking to Landon about it, and I'm like, just trying to explain that, like, I had said to my wife, I was like, I'm literally, as a grown man, going to be in tears when George Kittle is no longer a San Francisco 49er.
Oh, dude.
I have thoroughly enjoyed watching him grow from a rookie all the way to here, a grown man, everything he does. I follow everything about him, his wife, the whole nine. Like, he's just a great storyline. And he only knows one brand of football. It's full speed. It's all out. It's physical. It's old school football. I love it so much. And I'm just explaining to my son, I was like, what makes him so different is when you watch him, he is having fun, right? And he's not out there demanding the ball or doing the diva things for a guy that needs to be involved in the offense. And I think, Steph, your point was spot on. You are rewarded when you target George Kittle, not just with the result when the ball is in the air and after the catch and when he thinks, but things that he does with the ball in his hands are like game-changing in the sense he runs over somebody, the whole sideline goes crazy, momentum starts going, right? Like you give him a couple good he makes a couple plays in the passing game, his blocking gets better, right? Like you are exponentially rewarded for pouring your effort into number 85. And to top it all off, he's a mismatch. Like you can put him anywhere on the field. You can line him up as the sixth offensive lineman and design plays from all day. You can split him out. You can drag a linebacker outside of the box and make him cover him. There's not a safety in the league that can cover him. Like he's that freaking good. There are times, as much as I value George Kittle, as much as he's had such production, there are times I wondered, has his career been wasted in Kyle Shanahan's offense? Like, could there be more for him in a higher octane offense that throws the ball 35 to 40 times a week on average? I don't know, but yeah, George Kittle, the national treasure that he is. George Kittle.
George freaking Kittle, man.
Yeah.
He's like a golden retriever, but also on the field, like he's more like a cattle dog because he's just always looking for work, happy to be working. It's like, what you got for me next? And when he's doing it, like that's his life work, right? There's his purpose, it's just the kind of player that he is. Again, 49ers need to take advantage of that. All right. Who else you got? Did you have anyone else?
I do. I got one other, and it's Mac Jones. Again.
Of course.
I mean, 33 of 39, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns. Yes, he had the pick. Look, at the end of the day, the interception was a better result than if he got sacked in that moment in time. And he's a headsy player. He put the ball out there. Steve, his player, can make a play. It wasn't the greatest pass. It wasn't, the greatest window, anything along those lines. So I don't ding him for that, just given the moment of the game. I thought he made you could say, he underthrew Robinson the one time, but Robinson did a piss poor job of coming back and trying to draw a flag in any instance in that regard, in my opinion. But I thought Mac Jones played a hell of a game, continues to play hell of a games. Like they lauded Matthew Stafford for how he played and how he executed throughout this entire game. And all Mac Jones did was statistically outperform Matthew Stafford throughout the entire game. 8.2 yards per pass. Like I don't want to stir the quarterback controversy pot because I don't necessarily believe that there is one, but I have really, really enjoyed watching Mac Jones play quarterback for this team. Another one, like I think his career's gone away where it's less about the business. It's more about having fun, and you're seeing the results of that, where he's just out there letting it rip, trusting his gut.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been playing this game my whole life. I know how to read, I know how to read a defense. I'm just going to let it go. Because if he throws 4 picks in the game, what else are they going to do? They're going to put in Adrian Martinez? I don't think so. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, like, there's something to be said when you're not the one looking over your shoulder and have to play timid. Like, you can – this is – Steph, like, I swear to God, I think I'm right if I was to go prove this out. But backup quarterbacks in the first game that they are the actual starter coming from being a backup, and they might be – I guarantee they win more than they lose. Because they just go out there and let it rip and trust their football instincts. It's when they start to have a little success and people start looking at you differently than just a backup quarterback, where the walls come caving in and you collapse under the pressure of being, a starter in the National Football League. But Mac, it's Mac. And what was really nice to see was he was kept clean this game, right? Like, he didn't spend a lot of time on the ground. He was pretty cute and creative in the pocket, evident by that Luke Farrell touchdown, right? Where he bought time, stepped up, moved around on 3 broken knees.
Look at him
this point, and looking like the Tin Man out there, but still getting it done. Mac Jones. I mean, week after week, this dude comes to play football.
Yeah, I definitely think, Weston, there is something to the perception of backup quarterbacks. And when a backup quarterback has success, it's seen in a different light. It's appreciated a little bit differently, and mistakes are excused even differently than if you're the starting quarterback, is what I've found. Because there's no big price tag on Mac Jones either. So we'll forgive him for a lot of things. I was actually thinking about that when I watched this game. Now, you look at Mac's stats and you watch this game as well, you think he's playing really well. There were also a couple of, like, from the incompletions. Some of those incompletions were near picks. There were like 2 of them, and then he threw the 1 pick. That's not to say that he played bad. I'm just saying that if 2024 Brock Purdy played that exact same game, or had the same statistics, where he's 33 of 39, but his incompletions were near picks and he throws 1 pick, like, I feel like there'd be a different perception, and admittedly, even for myself, like, so I did think about that. I self-reflected, Weston, but you know what, I do still really appreciate what Mac Jones is doing. I think even this whole thing of, well, the 49ers miss Brock Purdy's mobility. I think, and that was something I was saying pretty early in the season when Brock Purdy was missing time. But I feel like as time has gone on, that's becoming less of a gap for me between the 2 quarterbacks. I understand Brock is more mobile, but I also understand when I'm watching these games, it hasn't mattered that much that Mac Jones is not as mobile, because he's not really getting sacked as much as you would think he would for a non-mobile guy. Why? Because he gets the ball out quickly. Real quick. And that's his strength. He didn't get sacked at all yesterday, right? And again, we talked about the fact he could have taken a sack there, instead threw a pick. But he's getting the ball out quickly, and that's a strength that you got to appreciate from him as well. Very decisive, very comfortable in his skill set. And I like to see that from him. They're slightly different, but the way that he's executing this offense can't go unnoticed anymore. And, for anyone who is a Brock Purdy fan, just remember, you're a fan of the 49ers. Don't feel bad about being a fan of what Mac Jones is doing. Don't feel defensive, and feel like you have to protect Brock Purdy. Like, it's no indictment on Brock Purdy at all that Mac Jones is playing well. It's just facts. And as a fan of the 49ers, got to root for whoever's under center on Sunday. And that happens to be Mac Jones, and he happens to be playing pretty damn well when he has started. So, yes, this is a performance I think we have to appreciate. Definitely one worthy of being nominated for 49K Player of the Week.
Yeah, I just think, like, I have this new appreciation for Mac Jones. Like, Steph, I don't know if you remember, but when they drafted Trey Lance, North Dakota State put out this like massive like hype video that went like viral. The NFL put it out, and it was clippings of everybody being so excited over the Trey Lance pick. I'm in that video.
You mentioned this, I think.
And you see me in the beginning being like, please don't be Mac Jones. Please don't be Mac Jones. Please don't be Mac Jones. Because at the time, they didn't want the 49ers to give up all that stuff to go get a quarterback they could have got. And if they just stayed where they were and drafted in the first place, it felt like mortgaging the future for the safe bet. But now you come in, you embrace him because he's part of your team. You watch him play. He's having a lot of fun out there. He is definitively matured, since his college days, his NFL experience. Like, as long as Mac Jones doesn't go from the 49ers to either the Rams or the Seahawks, I could even tolerate the Cardinals. He's made a fan in me. I respect his game. I respect how he approaches it. I see how his teammates, rally around him. There's just a lot to like about Mac. And I'm just kind of echoing your sentiment about like 49er fans. Like, you don't have to choose between Mac Jones and Brock Purdy. There's actually not a choice. Kyle Shanahan makes the choice. None of us make the choice, and we have no say in that. Just enjoy and appreciate that. Like, hey, right now, the way that he's playing, you can say with confidence that like there's a shot. We're in every game. There's a shot. The offense is moving.
Yeah, you're not worried about it at all.
Yeah. I have nobody else, by the way.
I don't either, and I'd be surprised if anyone else had anyone else that they could nominate. But before I put the names up on the screen, just really quickly want to remind you guys to go to sfgoldrushgear.com if you want some 49ers swag, some 49ers jewelry. I got a chain. I'll show you guys. It's right here. I mean, you remember me rocking this in New York, right?
I do.
I mean, look at that. Look at that bling. It's shiny and all that good stuff.
I had to ask her to keep it outside the house. It was just too loud to bring in the house when she stayed with us.
So you can get a chain just like that one if you go to sfgoldrushgear.com. You get 20% off your order if you use the code 49K. All right, that is my gift to you guys. But for now, folks, let's get back into this 49K Player of the Week nomination. We got a very short list. So let's get those votes in for anyone who's watching us live. Appreciate all of you. Now, Weston, I think you said you had some flowers to give. So in the meantime, let's acknowledge some of those flowers.
Yeah, I think the reasoning behind my flowers for this particular person, it was just really enjoying watching them play and watching them get reps. And I think they will develop into being a solid NFL contributor. And it's CJ West. I know we haven't seen him as of late. I know he's being sprung into action out of emergency. Obviously he's a big, stout body, right? That can anchor in the middle. He will get stronger. He's still very young. In terms of his NFL career. But I also think what I liked most about him and what I appreciated most about him was I saw several times after plays, Rams players getting like irritated by him and chippy with him and taking like the extra shots that, hey, in a big time moment that goes half a step too far, that might be a 15-yard penalty against them. And I feel like what this defense is missing right now is an agitator. You know what I mean? Not a Dre Greenlaw, because I just think at times he was just reckless with some of those things, and we got a taste of that
a little too far
in this game. Yeah, he's always like a step too far. But I really appreciate about that with CJ West that if clearly he was getting under people's skin and frustration. If you can get somebody playing outside their game, that's just as important as dominating them at the line as well. He's got some violent hands, and we're going to see a lot of them throughout the out of necessity. He's going to be forced to grow real fast. I just enjoyed a little bit of his tape, and I enjoyed some of his antics, and I think he's gonna have a lot of upside for this team.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would like to see him active. I don't know how he possibly. I know guys were coming back from injury, but like, I still feel like CJ West should be part of the rotation of guys in the interior. I think how he looked in the first half of the season when he was active certainly wasn't like awful to be like, let's shut him down. So I think he did a pretty good job in this game as well, things considered. So yeah, would like to see him get the nod for more opportunities going forward. You know, the reason he played, I have to imagine, was because Alfred Collins was out. Now, if Alfred Collins is back this week, still would like to see CJ Weston there. We'll see if we can get him in. As far as, flowers from me,
you got to dig deep.
I mean, no, I'll give it to Brian Robinson this week too, because I think he's someone that you got to continue to involve. I mean, you have to, just based on what we've seen the last couple of weeks. I think there's, in addition to spelling Christian McCaffrey and the benefits of that for obvious reasons, I think that there's a role that he could fill very, very well, right? He could be a short yardage guy, and you could trust him to fight for that extra yardage, make guys miss, bulldoze over guy, like he could do that for you. That's just, they haven't had that. I mean, Jordan Mason, they had that, didn't really use it. You trade for Brian Robinson, so how about use him a little bit more? And since they have these last couple of weeks, I mean, I feel like they've been rewarded by that usage as well. I mean, he had the rushing touchdown again, just bulldozes over a defender to get through that one. Averaged 5.1 yards per carry on his 8 carries, 41 yard total. He had a catch 2 for 4 yards. So I think mixing him in is a really good thing. It's a positive for this team and something I hope they continue to do going forward. And also like the red zone, like that, like I mentioned the touchdown, but that was a red zone touchdown, had one the previous week as well. That's his role. Short yardage, red zone guy. And anytime Christian McCaffrey needs a breather, put him in there. That's someone who I'd like to give flowers to.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I mean, listen, I nominated him last week after what we saw in the Giants game, and he basically, all he did was replicate that, right? Like in this particular game, I thought it was really cool. His usage was like in the thick of this game, right? Especially when the 49ers were moving the ball on offense. Obviously, has the potential to be a big time contributor in the red zone for sure. I mean, dude, he trucked Landman right at the goal line and just shedded him. That dude's like top 10 in the NFL in tackles right now, in the heart of that defense, and he literally shedded him from ideal defensive position on the goal line. All you could ask for if you're a linebacker in that scenario. And I think where the 49ers are severely lacking is the physicality from, guard in, right, on both sides. That makes it harder to run in the red zone where you're trying to do all the cutesy stuff with Christian McCaffrey and get him outside on the edge. Sometimes you got to be able just to run it between the tackles. And I'm not saying Christian McCaffrey can't run between the tackles. I'm just saying Brian Robinson, a little bit more of physicality to him in that style of run. Yeah. And look, weather's only getting colder. You're going to be traveling. If you're biting for a playoff spot, you have to be able to run the football in every which direction. And he can do it. And he can do it right now. And you saw like Christian this is probably Christian's lowest touch game of the season, right? Like, and the run game, to me, they still move the ball when they needed to.
Yeah, good sign. Hopefully, if things come, if they continue to use Brian Robinson. Anyone that you wanted to put on notice before we shut down the voting here?
Jair Brown. Like, I'm not even hesitant about that, and I'm coming out and saying it because I've tried to lobby for him as much as I possibly can. The dude just can't like he just misses too many tackles.
Yeah, can't have that
for me. And what's mind-boggling is he seems to be in the right place. You know what I mean? Like he seems to diagnose it. But you can't play safety for this football team if you can't get your shoulder in there and
too many arms. Like it's like his arm is made of rubber. Like he just can't.
Yeah. What are you doing on that Puka Nacua screen for a touchdown? Like that was just you are taught, Steph, to tackle. Head across, ear across, right? Body here to take it from him. And he's in that position and just sticks out an arm. I don't care.
That's what I'm saying. Like and there's nothing on that arm. Like there's just no strength there whatsoever.
Siegel better be back in this lineup real soon.
At this point, like if you know that your defense is going to struggle, you might as well struggle with young players, rookies who have something to learn from it. I mean, I think we've seen enough, like you said, from Jair Brown to know that, okay, maybe this guy is just not going to improve. You know, that's where we are. I think that's I would, if I had to give any put anyone on notice, that's who I would have chosen as well. So it's
just getting painful. And like I said, I can't wrap my head around the fact that you're in the right position. Like you were there, you diagnosed the play.
That makes it even more inexcusable, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and then he's just a liability in pass coverage right now too. So
right, which is I feel like that's why the 49ers moved off of Siegel, because he struggled there. But again, like if you're dealing with that same thing and he can't tackle, then what are we doing here? All right. Who are you voting for, Weston? 49K Player of the Week. Same. We have a unanimous 49K Player of the Week once again. Second week in a row that's happened. George Kittle is your Week 10 49K Player of the Week. Hopefully we see more of those, right, Weston? Like, it's a sign he's getting more involved if he gets more nominations.
Yeah, and I think back to my earlier point about we should have 49K Player like T-shirt like drawn up like
next year. You've been suggesting that for some time, and I just got to follow through.
Kittle's the guy who, if anybody was gonna wear it, right, like it would be Kittle. You know what I mean? At the podium stuff, we got to head it,
send it back. I don't know.
Yeah, he's that guy.
We got to try. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's 49K Player of the Week show on a Monday with Weston. Make sure you guys like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. Once again, make sure you guys hit up sfgoldrushgear.com for 20% off your order. Use the code 49K. You definitely want to use that next time you go to a game, next time you go to a 49ers party, or if you just want to rock it at home for good luck, make sure you guys go check that out for a chain just like this one. And audio listeners, you guys could hear this. You guys hear this. So make sure you guys do that. But for now, folks, have a good rest of your Monday. Peace.